talent is not always needed. The most blunt people that put themselves out there, that people notice, it's not the most talented always. They're just like, I'm doing it, I'm confident, I'm putting myself out there. They're getting the connections, they're getting seen, and they have a lot of possibility to grow.
Hello, welcome to Stories from a Room, a So Far Sounds podcast where we dive into the journeys of remarkable artists and the moments that shaped their path. I'm your host, Josh Savage, and today I'm joined by Marvelin, a Berlin-based beatboxer, educator, and community builder who's been shaking up Germany's beatbox scene with his bass-driven energy and infectious stage presence. He's a founding force behind Beatbox Germany, a champion performer with the Razones crew, and a regular at Europe's biggest beatbox events, from Looperama to the German Championships. When he's not performing, he's leading workshops, organizing showcases, and pushing the art of vocal expression forward. Marvelin, great to have you here, buddy. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm so excited to be here, man. Finally. Podcast is going, and really excited to be here, man.
I really want to start with just actually how we met, which I believe was May Day 2018. I saw you busking in the streets. And was this like, tell me where you were at in your career at this stage? Were you just starting to beatbox publicly then, or what was
Yeah.
going on at that time?
Yeah, it's a bit of a mystery how we met. I think we've been discussing the last 10 times of how it actually went down, and I ended up in your playing for you in your bedroom, and yeah, you picked me up from the streets, man.
I picked you up from the streets, invited you to my bedroom, and I loved that you trusted me with that. And we had the best birthday party ever, where you beatboxed at it. I think I played a few songs as well,
Yeah,
and we had a
yeah.
really wholesome experience.
It was very musical, not sexual, and I really liked. That was like back then, kind of like your first private sofas. I think that you did, and it was really fun playing.
That's right, yeah, because I just come back from London, missing the sofa vibe, and I had this huge bedroom because you get a lot
Yeah,
more for your money in Berlin apartment wise compared to London, and I really wanted to use the space. So yeah, it was really cool. Why don't we dive into, I guess, where it all started from you? You're from this small town in Germany, correct?
yeah. So, to get back to your first question, like I'm from a place called Saarland in Germany, which is like a southwest small part of Germany, and I started beatboxing when I was 14. Um, like a friend showed it to me on YouTube. We were meant to learn for math test, and but we ended up just watching YouTube, and he showed me beatboxing, and I was so flabbergasted. I did not know what it was, and I couldn't stop. Literally from that day, I didn't stop beatboxing. That's been more than 16 years. By the way, I had like an F in math for that test. We didn't. we did. Yeah, we didn't. We didn't learn so much, but I learned about beatboxing, and I think for the first 2 or 3 years I was really excited, but I didn't have any like artists around me. Everyone was like, yeah, do something proper, and so I kind of lost the artistic euphoria for it a little bit, and then it all only started again when I was traveling in 2015 and 16, where people always told me, you're a performer, you have to do this. And it was kind of like positive brainwashing. At some point I started to believe in the idea that I could actually, make a living from that. And then coming back from Australia, I realized I had to move to a big city. So it was either Cologne or Berlin. And I chose to come to Berlin. And I had this mission to, just being able to be a beatboxer. I think I was a bit more crazy at that time, like beatbox only, by now loop, and I, also rap a little bit. But that's when the journey started. And I think in May 2018 is when I, gathered up my contacts. I had, I was chilling with Shazam, EBM, Geppo, the whole people from like the German beatbox scene that started in February 2018 when we met at an event, and then we decided to found Beatbox Germany together. I think the idea was already in the air a little bit when I met you, and I think we made it concrete in like June or something. And yeah.
Wow, so much to untie here. So I'd love to know who were the performers of the YouTube video that made you fail your maths test.
um wow, back then 2009, yeah, I'll take you back in time. There wasn't a lot of beatbox videos out there. I think during that time you could maybe find 30, 20 or 30 cool beatboxing videos top. Like there were some like not interesting ones, but there were like 30 cool beatbox videos. Now there was like, there's thousands by now. But there was one video, it's called Daichi. Like the artist is called Daichi, and he did like this amazing beat that I always wanted to be able to repeat. And to this day, looking back 16 years ago, it's still fire, like it's very original what he did. There was a reason why it was so popular.
Can you repeat it for us now?
I think it went something like he had this funny accent. Obviously, he was like, "My name Deitch, and I want to win the Grand Beatbox Battle White Card." And then he went like, uh, "Hold up. Wow, I can't do it right now. What was it again? See, it's so special that I can't repeat it straight away. I was
Well, it
like,
sounded sick to me just now.
he did like clicks and like, but that's like sexy back. He did something similar to this, but like he did like everyone copied him. Everyone
So
wanted
that
to be Daichi.
that was kind of the seed that planted your beatbox path. Can you, for new listeners especially, can you share a bit of what your beatboxing style now with a small performance, like a quick 20
Yeah,
second
sure.
performance?
Yeah. So like I incorporate a lot of sounds. I think I'm a beatboxer that knows how to mimic a lot of sounds, whereas a lot of beatboxers do mostly like tech, bass, and drums. Mm. So I like animal sounds, like, or like, you know kind of like a siren. Or when I would beatbox, I often tend to, electronic kind of music. Oh yeah,
Let's
something
go,
like that.
Marvy. So cool. And you make it look so easy. It's incredible. You're doing so much with your mouth.
Wow, well, that was the first time I beatboxed today, so I was like, oh wow, yeah, actually, I forgot I had to probably beatbox in this podcast. I wasn't really warmed up, but
Putting
I
you on the
enjoyed it.
spot. So how do you even build to that? Like, how much time were you putting into that? How do you even develop, especially what blows my mind about beatboxers, especially the lower end, the bass frequency, which just doesn't sound human. Like, how do you build to that, especially for like aspiring beatboxers today? How do you get to that stage? What does it take?
Yeah, I think the the most important thing to realize is what I, from years of coaching, what I've realized is that most or almost every successful beatboxer on the planet right now is really good at being self-taught. So like being able to teach yourself, because guitar tutorials, or like there is so much more information about other instruments and people that teach it. I think the first thing to know is that if you're able to teach yourself well, you're gonna be able to do amazing things. And I think at the start, for me, it was just like not so much about the music, it was more about the imitation itself. Like, how can I possibly make all these sounds? Because I think for a lot of beatboxers, they get into music through beatboxing, and they weren't necessarily interested um, in the music as much as they were into the imitating. That's also a reason why a lot of beatboxers, why it's kind of allowed for beatboxers to not be in time sometimes, because it's more about the, oh wow, look at what he's doing. If a drummer would be off time, it would be like, what are you doing, bro? That's your job. So um I think the first few years I was kind of imitating, and then when I got more professional, I went closer into the parts of what does it mean to be a beatboxer. It means to be certain things. It means to be a drummer. It means to be a singer. It means to be um, you know a bassist, whatever, like a DJ, to combine all of these things. um, and obviously the bass sounds, once you know how it works, it's demystifies it a little bit, I would say. But I guess it's still really hard to do. So for anything voice related, it's basically like an octave that is being produced by pressuring a certain spot in your throat. Like same with throat singing. If I'm doing or and then I shape my throat in a certain way that the sound waves are hitting kind of different, slower and longer intervals, and it sounds like ah oh. So I add like through the pressure point, and that works. With ha ha, I put like kind of this raspy voice underneath it, and then my normal voice just lays on top of it. So it's kind of a combination of certain things, and then there's like lip bass sounds, like the lip bass, where it's only the lips, and that's one of the hardest sounds to do, actually, lip roll. Um,
Really?
yeah, yeah, it is. It's one of the
Also,
hardest to learn.
for listeners, note that this has no EQ or any special effects at all. This is directly from Marvelin's mouth into a microphone with, yeah, just raw, straight into the mic. It's absolutely incredible, and you have to see live. And he's got a bird in his room. And another part, I think you mentioned as well. You said there's the bass and all these other elements into beatboxing. Also, working with a crowd, which I think is really key. Um, and and it's amazing that you have all this arsenal of tools, and you can just throw them at the audience to keep them
Mm.
engaged, which is absolutely incredible. Um, can you tell me a bit more about your performing journey and your first concert, for example, and how that led to just the killer sets that you deliver at our So Far shows now?
Cheers, man. Um, yeah, the performance part is has been an interesting journey for me, because I would say, from just what I've been gathering information wise about the last years, I would say I'm a natural performer, but I can definitely, see the days where I was like, what the fuck am I gonna do? So I think anything performance related is really connected to the things you already know you can do really well, like things you can pull back to. And I will go into detail a bit later about that, because the first time I think I was on a big stage, I was like 14. I was, you know, only beatboxing for 6 months. And there was this beatboxer, Robeat, which is actually like a legend. Even back then, he did like all the beatbox videos. He was internationally and is internationally known in the beatboxing. And he was my big hero. And he came to my hometown. It's called Saarbrücken. Um, and there was a beatbox battle in this club. And actually, my father was a bouncer during that time, and I was 14. I was already like 6'2", pretty tall as I am now. And I was like, "Oh, can I please come into the club?" And he's like, "Yeah." you can do it. And I participated in that beatbox battle, and I became like second place, which was really nice. And I
At
remember that,
14.
yeah,
Wow.
this is like really crazy. I remember and hanging out with Robeat, and I kind of could see uh, how you could be a performer, but I was really shy because I didn't really know so much then, and I did have some other thing like gigs that I did, but to come to the killer sets you told I do now is I just know what works with the crowd, and I had to, put in the hours. You oftentimes we speak about how many years have you been doing this, and that is definitely like, kind of a way to try and look at things, but how many hours, how many minutes have you performed on stage? How many times have you done the same thing? How many times did you experience it with a full crowd, with not such a full crowd? And I think I just gathered up a lot of data essentially. So when I go on stage and I feel like, this crowd is like into this vibe, I'm like, this will work because I've done it 5 times before. Not so much, but I've done it 5 times. So I think for me, it's really about experience and having tried out things. So like gathering data necessarily. One of my biggest inspirations, Freddie Beats, who does amazing beatbox comedy shows. He had this whole book where he wrote down every performance and what went well and what didn't go well. And he is hilarious. He's so funny, and he does the same set every time, like very similar. He has two or three by now. He has different ones, but he says he loves his show so much and he's gonna keep on improving it. Yeah, he's an amazing artist, and I think I definitely have a lot of inspiration from him. And what I was saying is, the more routines, let me call it that, the more routines you have as a performer, the more you're able to dive into spontaneous,
Spontaneous.
yeah, to be more spontaneous about like trying things, because you're just very secure to like, if this doesn't work, I will just go right back to that because that I know will be killer. So if I'm at shows and I'm like, I might just try this one. It's like a comedian, that just knows he has a killer joke that he can follow up into any joke that he's trying out that he doesn't know works so well. So I found like a good balance of freestyling and just falling back onto things I know work.
And so, did busking play a big part of that in learning that development and learning all the tools to adapt for any scenario?
Kind of, not for everything, because I think busking is just brutal. Like you, I think at the start when you start out busking, it's like no experience, and then you start beatboxing, and then like, you hope people are gonna stand, and then oh fuck, now there's someone standing. What the fuck am I going to do now? Now he's watching or she's watching, and then like it's really weird at the start. But it definitely helped in like having confidence in yourself and building a crowd and like making that crowd yours. um it's definitely different to already having a crowd. If you already have a crowd, you can like start right away with different things, like call and response is much easier if you already have a crowd. If you start busking, you have to like you know make gold out of shit. Basically, you really you really got to work for that, man. You got to work
You
for
do a
that
great
talent.
job.
Yeah, it was amazing. We had great times in Mauer Park in Berlin, actually. Huge crowds, huge parties, people going crazy. Like, at times where beatboxing wasn't so known, like, I don't know, 2016 in Australia, there were still people that didn't know what beatboxing was. I think by now you almost meet no one anymore. But like, I think 10, 15, 20 years, there was still people that didn't know. They were like, what is this?
I still think quite a few people still don't know. I'd say we're still under 50% of the world population who have no idea about beatboxing.
Mm.
I noticed that from our so far shows when we have you as a regular or El Grande and EBM and
Yeah.
Shazam. It's like it just blows people's minds, and a lot of the time it's like over 50% of the audience.
Yeah, what I would say is like, mm, I guess a lot of people have heard it or have heard the
Yeah,
and then there's the
Boots and
people
Cats
that,
vibe.
yeah, that don't really know what it means to feel beatboxing live, because beatboxing is such a live element. If you experience it live and you know someone that is actually a good musician, they know what they're doing, they know how to work a crowd, how to get them interactive, build into their performance, people just change their perspective of beatboxing.
Mm. Can you share a bit more about the beatbox landscape? There's a lot of these battles and beatbox champions, and I find it quite fascinating from a third party perspective how it seems incredibly competitive and yet quite communal and brotherly or sisterly at the same time.
Yeah.
Make that make sense for me.
um so I guess, first of all, the landscape of beatboxing is orientated from the what was founded in like early 2000s, here in Berlin by Bilo, Beatbox Battle TV it was called. And he had one of the first YouTube like accounts, but that's a big another story. But he had a big account and he basically made beatboxing globally, um like accessible, where he started doing like bigger battles. He started the first German Beatbox Championship in 2002 in Berlin City. So he kind of like started this hub, and Berlin became the hub of beatboxing, like worldwide, because the championships were here and everything was surrounded in Berlin for beatboxing. Uh, and at that time, there was like still like a huge hype around beatboxing. There was also like, I would say, more money kind of for like certain entities that were doing beatboxing because it was so special. Um, so like I think, when we go back 1980s, America, the Bronx, where beatboxing started, it was kind of like the gimmick. Ah, cool, that's a beatboxer, what they can do, and it was very much hip hop surrounded. And then we go to Berlin, Germany in like early 2000s. Bilo is making the scene bigger, and by 2012 it explodes basically. Like 2012, the World Beatbox Championship was like, view wise on YouTube, one of like the most successful one yet to that date. And there was a lot of flooding into that space from that time. And the beatboxing community was always so nice, I would say, even though it was battling, is because there wasn't no language like in rap. It wasn't about like, dissing someone about something. It was always like, look at what sounds I can do. And like, it was always like discovering. People were always discovering, basically. They were like, what can you do? Oh wow, have you heard about this? And like, oh wow, I didn't know, kind of. Because whereas in like rapping, you would have people writing cool disses and being cool and like, oh look, I've dissed that one, blah blah, or like kind of, in beatboxing, there was this huge discovery phase, which has kind of ebbed out a bit. It's not as much more. People are making more music now in beatboxing. Um, but I guess people that are interested in beatboxing also have to be a bit brave, because you have to be kind of silly to start it. I think the coolest dudes or girls just wouldn't like try it. They were
Are you
like,
silly, Marvelin?
yeah, I'm definitely very silly. Yeah. I love being silly. I loved it. I was. think a lot of people with ADHD also love it. They get this hyper focus, into beatboxing. That's why they do it. Like they can just get lost in it.
Mm.
Um, but the community in itself is more like on the nerdy end. People are super nice, and the battling is just a means of expression, like a platform, basically.
So why does it have to be a battle?
I think it's just the culture where it comes from hip hop, and it was always like rap and battling. That was always something integrated. Like beatboxing was always used at first as a means to an end to help rappers, stand out in like battles on the street. So that there was always this battle component to it. It wasn't like um if you compare it to vocal percussion, which has been around for like thousands of years, and like conical, India, for example, uh it was always musical, always integrated into musical performance. But beatboxing, it stems from the 1980s, the battle culture of rap, and then it kind of became its own thing, but it was always like considered the fifth element of hip hop. So the battling was always like deeply rooted into beatboxing, and it is also just so popular. Like if the scene, when it started with Bilo in 2002 in Berlin, he started doing these battles. So the battles were kind of like where the community gathered. So that's what people saw. Um, Kind of like, I think people were like, I need to battle, because that's the shit. That's what's going on. Mm, it's only now that there's more festivals and like concerts that are happening, but beatboxing was always surrounded by who's better, who's the greatest. But deep down, everyone just loved each other. And I think just with more fame and money, like in anything else, there's more kind of hatred and jealousy directed towards artists, which has also been happening in the beatboxing a little bit, not too crazy, but anything that is small and grows out to be a bit bigger experiences that in any form, I would say.
What makes a beatboxer better than another, considering the diverse range of sounds that are included?
I would say if you look back 10, 15 years from now, the answer would have been anyone that has power and is a good drummer as a beatboxer and can like portray that onto the stage. Because I think a lot of people weren't so, yeah, if you were off time, even now, but like now the answer is more like who's the better musician and who has the biggest wow effect, you know? Even the case like 10, 15 years ago, but now it's more about how can you make it touching, or how crazy can you make it? How much can you fill into one thing and make it sound, amazing?
Right. Can you tell me about your participation in these championships? Maybe the first time you won your championship, which was in 22. Is that correct? Was it before?
Yeah, so the first time I participated as a solo participant in 2017, that was my first contact into the scene. I went into the top 8, and then I lost against Geppo, who went to become the vice champion. Shazam won in that year, actually. He became German champion. Um, and funny enough, like Geppo in the final, he was just like giving up, kind of like it seemed like he didn't want to win as well. And but 2022, um, I was participating with my crew, the Rezones, and we won in the crew championship. 2018, I was also tag team and crew, where I went to the finals and became vice champion. And 2023, we became third place with the Rezones at the World BBX Championship.
Hell yeah. What's vice champion? Second place.
Second, yeah.
Okay. And so tell me more about the Rezones then, how that became a beatbox band.
Well, the Rezones have been around since 2017, and they've been, you know, like my inspiration of what I would love to do as a musician on stage with, other beatboxers. And I first saw them 2018, 2019. I was a big fan. I was like, wow, you could already see they were picking up some momentum. They were more successful. They've been doing more of like theater shows and everything since 2012. Corona hit, and in that time they were already like kind of knowing that one of the members would leave. Like that person just became a father. He was moving away from Berlin, and they were looking for a replacement. And they asked me. They were like, "You are number one choice, and we would love to work with you." And I was, flabbergasted. I was like, "Fuck yes!" Because kind of, they were still in the Voice of Germany in 2021 with the old member. That was already planned, and the member was already also planning on, potentially being there still for some gigs. He wasn't like there wasn't like fuck you guys. I'm just gonna leave and never want to see you again. So they did the Voice of Germany, and they went into the semifinals actually. So for me, joining in 2022, already working in 21 with them, but probably joining in 2022, it was amazing. They were already like really successful during that time before, but the Voice of Germany, just made like a kind of bit of a professional stamp on it for any old white man in any decision kind of making. It was like we went from these are four cool boys that are doing hip hop to like they actually have done something in the music industry, and they were quite successful at it. It kind of just helped with a lot of dealing with people, whereas before I would need to back and forth, say why we're worth that much to like, yeah, you're worth that much.
Right. How I think valuing yourself as an artist is probably one of the biggest challenges, especially for new beginners. How did you learn that yourself?
Can you ask what is it, the fight, what?
S- Um, I was saying valuing yourself as an artist is really difficult,
Mm,
especially considering it's a passion of yours. You would do all of it for free, especially in the beginning. How did you learn to
mm.
value yourself as a performer to take you to the lengths that you've now come across, and also as an event organizer as well to support the local scene?
So to value, you mean in terms of how I sell myself as an artist, to like how much I'm
The
taking for a
the
show,
yeah, the
or
entrepreneurship to make sure that you can
yeah,
keep creating and keep performing.
yeah,
And what are the biggest
um,
challenges for beatboxers these days
yeah.
in this ever changing landscape?
I think to say for beatboxers, I think the biggest understanding any beatboxer should have, my opinion, is to step out of the beatboxing reality and start to become a performer. Uh, and also at least have an interest in becoming a good musician. Um, so what that because a lot of beatboxers are stuck up into like, I want to be a greater beatboxer, and I've been there the longest of time, but I was always like very much into my performance and wanting to be a better musician. So I think that helped me, grow into the direction where I am now. And I think, also generally speaking, just being clear about what you want and where you want to take it. And if you don't know where to take it, try and find out why you can't, and try and challenge yourself to find out the answers, to be, you know, kind of confident. I think confidence is one of the main things, because talent is not always needed, or it's mostly the most blunt people that put themselves out there that people notice. You know, it's not the most talented always. They're just blunt. They're just like, I'm doing it. I'm confident. I'm putting myself out there. They're getting the connections. They're getting seen. Most likely to all of that confidence, they, have a lot of surface where they're being seen, and they have a lot of possibility to grow as people and as artists. So kind of try and find out how to be more confident about what you're doing and what triggers you, for some people it's parents, for some people it's like, you know not wanting to be failure or whatever. um I think if you can portray that, you make big changes in your steps towards being a full-time musician or performer.
Is it easy to find gigs as a beatboxer?
um I would say so, yeah. um I think it So the thing is, there's a niche, right? So for beatboxing, obviously, and there's people navigating that niche already. I would say right now, people living from only beatbox orientated performances, people that can live from that, I would say maybe 10 people in Germany. 10, maybe 10 to 15 that can live from that. Uh, yeah, I wouldn't go more. 15 max, I would say.
Wow.
Um,
But
so
out of how many? It's not that big. There's not that many beatboxers,
I
really,
mean,
right?
how many? Like, I mean, there's thousands of beatboxers in Germany. How many are trying? Maybe I don't know how many are trying to live from it, but there's thousands in Germany that are actually on a good level and like actually have the potential to be professional, I would say. So it's kind of hard to find something. You just gotta, because what most people are looking for is a show act. They want the 5 minute crazy blow my mind beatbox performance, everyone jaw dropping, and they don't want the performance. They don't. That's not interesting to them. So there's the one performance niche that I think a lot of people ask for. That's how you get gigs. And then there is kind of like this other niche where people are looking for good music or acts that can perform in that kind of niche, as like beatboxing, looping, that just love that. And there you got to be a good musician, and also, don't try and be the craziest sound, 100 sounds on top of each other, dude or girl.
So how do you adapt your set at So Far Sound shows?
mm, that's so like welcoming, to be honest, because people are just like, they're eating out of your hands, basically. No, like, no, I think that's a good description, because they're super respectful. They paid money. That's an important thing to say. Like, they have paid money. Uh, it's not like you're at a corporate event where everyone has to sit there and they're like, oh, what's the next thing? Oh, it's my 10th year at this company, and every year they're doing something to, wow, and like, let's have a look, so they've come there, they made a conscious decision to discover artists, they paid money, then they're sitting there, and the whole thing is about being quiet and listening to the artists, so like, getting there on stage, it feels amazing. It feels very intimate. Like, the feeling I have when I do certain things is like I can go anywhere. Like, anything is possible. Because I'm not just playing my songs. I'm doing like spontaneous kind of changes where I then can fall back into the routines I told you earlier about. So I remember my last Sofa Sounds in April. I did something completely new, and I could feel the energy in the room. Like, everyone was going with it, and they all gave me that energy. And I kind of like, took that, and went places with them, I would say. It's very uniquely. So I think the sofa sounds sofa sounds is one of the most welcoming and easiest to play because people are really respectful.
Why is that important for artists and specifically here for beatboxers?
And everyone wants to be seen, you know. Everyone has the need of um to truly be seen, you know, like as an artist, or an underlaying underneath that artist is always that inner child, and you know, something that I think a lot of artists kind of, I'm not saying that's everything, you know, but the small part is also like kind of trying to, you know, make up for something, maybe, you know, like something where something was missing. So we fill ourselves with kind of art and which is a good thing, you know. I'm not saying that's negative, but I think especially at a sofa show, you don't have that pressure to kind of prove, you know. You're like, I'm not here to prove anything. And yeah, you know, some people are extremely confident. They don't need that at all anywhere where they go. But I think on the spectrum, saying that's really nice, like being there and feeling seen was really nice.
A criticism that So Far Sounds often gets is that they don't pay artists enough. As an event organizer yourself, what's your view on that?
Um, First of all, I like the transparency side of it, of what you generally are open to talk and disclose to the public, what I've seen before, and that it is kind of the same for everyone. And if there's more ticket sales, that the artist gets more money. I think you will just need to scale it differently, you know? Like in terms of what you're getting in return for what you're doing, I think for any upcoming artists, and I say upcoming artists, it's really nice. Like the return of investment is big, I would say. And yeah, it is not the most crazy amount, but like I think a lot of people forget that sometimes you play in front of like 30 people, you know, and that's not a lot. So obviously, if you play in front of two, three, or 400, things change. And I guess the sofa team or in itself just needs to work, you know, with partnerships and just try and see how that can level up, like, you know, special sofa events or just something where more money comes in. Um, on the other hand, no one has to play, you know, no one has to play at a sofa show, but it is always something that comes up if you are making more community building. People start talking to each other, people are trying to see what's more fair, what is less fair, how they're being treated, how how sound like the whole experience, you know. And I think transparency is the biggest um uh the biggest weapon in like destroying any doubt into people's minds, like because essentially criticism arises when people don't know. Sometimes it's good when they don't know everything, but if they have some sort of like transparency and they know where they're at a little bit, they have a sense of control that they can give themselves, and that everyone has a direction, and then everything goes more smooth. Because yeah, so forms of transparency and where understanding the goal of sofa more and more, where it wants to go, because I think where the issue arises is when people have the feeling that one person is benefiting from artists, essentially, that like one person big best example is CEO of Spotify. You know, like everyone seems to hate this guy because he's making lots of money, and he's not really transparent what he's doing, so everyone hates him. You know, so kind of like that is the bad example. And I think the more people are understanding what the money does and where it goes and what the goal is, like everyone is more accepting of it.
Yeah, I think you're totally right. I think transparency is totally key. I do wonder if throughout so far's, especially recent history, have been that good at communicating that. From my experience as an artist, a so far fan, and now a curator again, I think so far is just well, it's evolving. I mean, if the so far that I grew up with back in 2013 when I played my first so far at So Far Sounds Oxford, um, all the people running so far shows were volunteers back then, and the shows were run by hat money, and the concept was you either got your share of the hat money or you got a video, but if you got the video you didn't get any money because that money would go towards producing the video. And that inspired me to bring So Far Sounds in Winchester, in my UK city that I was living in, to help support a local scene there, because we only had one local music venue, and which was ridiculous. And it's a beautiful city with loads of cool venues, so I thought it'd be great. And there's so much talent coming from Winchester. It's like this needs it so far, and I really enjoyed the experience, and it was great for community building as well. But my entire team were volunteers, and also I discovered from Hat Money, actually, even then the artists weren't getting that well paid. Like, I think we were, on my first so far shows, I was barely paid 30 quid, even if I was traveling all around the world doing that. And the only way I was able to afford traveling around the world touring nonstop was because I was couch surfing and keep my costs low. And I didn't actually, I was homeless essentially. I didn't pay any rent anywhere. And that was the kind of sacrifice I made to build my dream, basically. Um, and now so far, I mean, now so far is trying to become a professional entity, trying to become a business, and of course that's going to come with growing pains. And I think that's what we're seeing at So Far Sounds so far. And but the thing is, Marvelin, like, I played a show opening for 100,000 people, opening for Robbie Williams. I get paid better playing So Far shows than I did at that freaking show, to like 100,000 people. And so far sounds are not the bad guys. It's just trying to become sustainable. And to this day, since 2009, since it started, So Far Sounds has not made a profitable year. 16 years later, and it's starting to grow to that stage. But that's the thing, like, unless you organize these shows yourselves, you have no idea how much goes behind the scenes to make it happen, to source
Yeah,
venues, organize it all, book the artists, find the artists, lead and manage
yeah.
the team, and all that stuff. Like, I
It's
would love
like
to know. Yeah,
it's information. It's basically whether that is negative, positive, or anything related to information. If that is not disclosed or like withheld in any way, it's up to chance what people think. And people can be horrible. People can, like, they can project anything onto literally any project that you have. And I think just talking about it here as well, having a platform or just some insight, even if just like, let's say, two or three people hear that are regularly coming to events and, like, support the artist scene, they can be like, you know what, like, I've been hearing that here. And they actually do go into detail about paying artists or whatever. Like, it's just like opening dialogue for people, and sharing information. I think, mm, what I learned in directing the German championship and the German beatboxing while doing so as well, is the more I opened up to the community and like their question and the input, and the more I disclosed on what it is we would be working towards to, um, the more relaxed people became, because they just had a sense of orientation. And if people don't have that, then yeah, Hell's Kitchen is starting to give you a nice brew. But sometimes and that's a challenge as a as an organizer as well. Sometimes you don't know yet exactly as well. Like sometimes you are doing something that you know is like starting to evolve, and you kind of have to, depending on how many people are involved as well, you kind of also have to navigate yourself in that as well. Like, where am I going to, where do I want to like put my energy into, also finding out what are my own morals, like what do I stand for, and like making that clear. I had this I had different sponsors like reaching out, and I'm like, can I actually do that, like is this a fit? Because that would be like, I think there was one time where like a sponsor of something that wasn't good for health or something, was kind of reaching out. And I was like, oh, well, this could be good money. This could be really good, but this is what I'm standing for, Could be good for the artist and blah, blah, blah. But, more money coming in, I could pay people better. But this is like what, the German Beatbox Championship or anything would stand for. And I was like, kind of had to take a step back from that. So, like, navigating your own, yeah, morals and beliefs, and kind of just knowing where will this boat sail to.
What inspired you to start Beatbox Germany? Why not just focus and funnel down on your own performing career?
Um, I think two things. Back then, my mother wasn't doing so well, and like financially, and like the whole financial upcoming of my side was more like that. I really young realized that I wanted to, financially grow quicker than I might, intentionally maybe wanted to. So that was one, not the driving factor, but that was something that was around, like in the back of my mind. I will want to, have something that I can work towards to and scale. And the other thing was the need in the beatboxing scene that I saw, because Bilo wasn't doing any events anymore, and he basically said, and I have to say that is not current, and he revised that statement. But he said, if I'm not doing anything, no one does, and that really got me. I was like, what the fuck, But I have to say, everything is good now with him, like no beef, no hate, no anything. Because we figured it out in the end, and we're on really good terms. But that kind of sparked my interest to be like, you know what? I So I went to Shazam, and I was like, hey bro, I wanna I wanna create something. I wanna create Beatbox Germany. Like, and he was like, oh wow, Shazam is always really good to pitch ideas and just like be excited about things. He's one of the best guys to be excited about anything, actually.
Well, I've
Really
seen that.
nice.
It's fantastic to see on his TikTok and
Yeah,
Instagram
and
reels.
that is him totally. He's like
Yeah,
5
yeah.
million followers now, and what people don't
Respect.
understand is like it's actually him. It's always been him. Like,
Really?
yeah, it's always been like this. Obviously, he's playing himself, I would say, to an extent, where he
Yeah.
like, it's like, going into that character, but it's an exaggerated form of he knows what works. So, and but anyway, so for anyone that doesn't know, he's one of the most famous beatboxers by now, due to the reaction thing he does. Um, but yeah, so I went to him, and he was like, "Yeah, let's do it," but we had to go through Bilo, because we're basically taking over the German scene now, and Bilo didn't like that. And obviously, I can understand. He built the whole fucking thing. He built the empire. He was the reason why beatboxing was so popular. Um, but anyway, we did that first championship in 2018, And yeah, and the first years was always like, I think
So was
Beatbox
that with his
Germany.
permission? Sorry to interrupt.
Well, not really. Like,
Ooh,
um, so what I have to say, because I don't want to make it sound, I don't want to make him seem bad. But initially, he didn't want it, obviously, because he was losing something. He had
okay.
control over so something, obviously, and we were taking away from that, and no one likes that, right? But we basically then told him we're gonna do the German Beatbox Championship in 2018, and without him, and you know, so he was kind of like not happy about that. Initially, he was very angry, but the day, but the day after, I'm sorry, it's emotional. No, but the day after, he was like, you know what, guys, I thought about it. This is the best for the scene, so I wish you good luck. You do amazing. Bam. And ever since, there's never looked back, you know? So it was always good. Like Belo's one for his word. And amazing guy. He really did something here. And then 2018, I think to 2022, it was like I worked my ass off so much, bro. Like it was crazy. Like, and I never, you know, like everything that Beatbox Germany made from like the YouTube channel was always put back into new events that we're doing. We weren't making any money from the events, you know, like I could always like kind of make it towards like, we just broke even. I think the first 6 or like 10 events I was always like be able to just break even, you know, to make like certain deals and kind of like make it happen and squeeze the lemon, I would say. You know, I was very much squeezing the lemon, like hard. um and some people also thought like, oh, Beatbox Germany is making bank, you know. I was like, that was not the case, you know. And like, and then 2024 hit.
And let
Yeah,
me uh, dive into that. Why was
yeah.
that not the case? Like, where does the money go at Beatbox Germany? If you can run
So
down a few
like,
things.
so I think the bigger the event got, the more people thought, oh wow, they're quickly gonna, you know, summarize what we make on an event. They're charging 40 euros or something. They sold 1,000 or 800 tickets or 700. Oh wow, they must make that. And I've been there myself, so I know this issue. Even though I'm an organizer
Yeah,
myself,
right.
is like that trap is definitely there. But there's so many different costs you have to consider that are going into such a big event, that at the end of the day, there's not really much wiggle room to like, you know, I've never paid myself for an event until Looperama 2024. That was the first event I gave myself uh, money for organizing, for actually the work I'm doing, the work I've been doing for, you know, 6 years prior to that. Before, I never, like, I always just put everything, my whole energy into that. And that was the first time I actually did that. Um,
Interesting. That's fascinating for my end as a so far curator. Um, I mean, for 3 years running events in Winchester, I never paid myself for that. And it's only just now at So Far Berlin that I'm paying my minimum costs
yeah.
to just stay alive and keep these shows going, you know, and everything else goes back into keeping the shows going and bringing value more to attendees and the artists.
Yeah, that's it. It's like, it's a full-time job, or it can be.
It's like 2 full-time jobs, man, because like it's not even a 9 to 5. It's like a 24/7, 7 days a week. It's insane.
Yeah, you have weird hours, I would say. Yeah. Yeah, no, 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 because you start to wake up, you do some office, and then you have late night shows. You like, you have like more extended kind of time frame of what you're doing in a day. Mm.
So you're going down the route about Beatbox Germany and how you kind of sustains that. only just started paying yourself from Looperama in 2024, and
Yeah. So
I guess yeah, you carry on.
no, so obviously, I think the biggest thing people see is the YouTube channel and the views that we made. And obviously, like, there's money that has been coming in from that, but there was always like reinvested into the idea of the beatbox community and what we were doing, and like kind of like building and building and building. And it's also, YouTube doesn't pay as much as people think, like it has been going down a lot. And it also has to do who's watching, and most viewers are from India and from Indonesia, and if they're getting an ad for a shaver, that costs like €5, where would here cost 60 or 50, obviously the advertisement is not paid as much, because on YouTube you get paid 50-50. And if your half of your viewership is from Indonesia, obviously the amount of money they're paying for the advertisement is not as high, whereas you have the US, for example. If you only have US watches, for example, the CPM is big, you make big money. Or if you don't only have German watches, it's also a bit higher.
So why bother? Why be an event organizer?
Well, I always had this need of like being part of a community as a beatboxer, like I knew how it was not to have someone to share my passion with. So I could see there was nothing created, and I was like, I'm good at talking with people. I have presence. I can, make things happen. I saw myself in that. Mm, so I just did it. I think that was my first years in Berlin, and I was like, this is something I can work towards too. That's actually happening. Like, this actually works, and I'm kind of building that up from the ground. And now Beatbox Germany is also turning into an artist agency. Or it is, like we have our website, and people are, getting inquiries about wanting to have beatbox performances.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, so kind of just like growing the company, and always, being there and supporting the beatbox community.
And Germany's one of the biggest scenes in the world for beatboxing now, right?
Yeah, I mean, it always has been. So, like, Bilo started it here, and Berlin is one of the biggest beatbox hubs, I would say, in the world. Um, like a lot of good beatboxers here, and beatboxers moving to Berlin because they know it's like what's up here. And obviously, also from our work of what we've been doing and building and bringing lots of people to Berlin. So I would say, in a vast point of view, Germany is one of the biggest. Artist wise, in Loop Station, one of the best in the world too. Solo wise, there's different countries that have, this Michael Jackson, let's say, in the beatbox community. Germany doesn't have a Michael Jackson, really. Like, there's been like, you've probably seen him Wing, the South Korean guy. He's like a superstar right now. Australia has not so many beatboxers, but they have crazy like Codfish, Gale. They have Tom Thumb, Joel Turner. They have like these huge names, and beatbox, like Germany, is like waiting for their own superstar, I would say.
Awesome. And you're also educating as well, right?
Yeah, so I've been coaching for like 5 years now, I would say. Coaching 5 years. The first 2 years very intensively, and then a little bit less. And but yeah, I've been doing that for the last 5 years, and it's been really rewarding.
Why is it rewarding? What joy do you get out of it?
Mm, like the first time, like the first bit was more like discovering of how it actually all works, and how to actually explain someone what you do. That was interesting. And I have someone I've been working with for almost 4 years, or more than 4 years now, and it's crazy. He was 15 when I started to work with him, and he's like 19, grown man, has his own company, started really young, doing his own company, and like is a really good beatboxer. Has become the vice champion of his area in Germany, and it's really nice to see how someone can grow as an artist if you, yeah, to be part of that growth. Yeah,
So you've done that with him personally and so many others, also with Beatbox Germany. Truly incredible, Marvelin.
thank you, man.
So, uh, so listeners know what to expect from beatbox coaching. You're about to have a few lessons with me. Where would we start, and what can I expect from some marvelous
Yeah,
Marvelin coaching?
yeah. With you, all hope is lost. That would
Just give up. Go
that would
back
be
to a
my
day job.
first lesson to you. Would be like, just
Just
don't
a
try.
reality check.
Yeah,
Fair enough.
yeah. So anyone that really thinks they can beatbox, consider 2 times if you want to come coach with me. No, I mean that was the negative pep talk. The actual the reality side of things is to understand your like physical ability first of all, of how to like make sounds, and then giving you bridges on how to actually attain that. Because as a baby, you know, you take years to learn a language, to produce sounds and everything. So what I've learned is, I think I have a pretty good formula by now to teach anyone pretty much anything. And for me, the first lessons is always like, how good is this person in teaching themselves? How well do they understand their own body in terms of like feeling when I'm saying certain things? Like, are they doing it like instantly? Because I've had people that were extremely talented. I only needed to say, ah, yeah, this feels like this, try that, and they would do it like instantly. And then I had people where I lost all hope, where I was like, that's just not working. And then I understood, no, they just don't have an idea of how that feels. So I, as a coach, just need to give them more examples of how to go down that road, you know? So, and that was really rewarding, because what that told me is the the whole step of learning a sound is one process, right? And once you have that process down, you can go into play mode, you know, like actually playing with the sounds. Because most people get stuck up in not learning enough and then being able to play with it, you know? And then if they take ages to teach themselves, they just stop, you know. But you don't need, like, you need a certain like vocabulary, and then you can beatbox like crazy, and then you can be really shitty at teaching yourself, but you have these sounds, you know. I think, like, coming to that understanding that you might just not be the best self-taught. We have, like, it's called autodidact in German. It's basically people that just pick up anything by themselves, that don't need any teaching. So yeah, I'm a
So, so that there may be hope for me then. Still,
yeah, 100%.
Marvelin, what are you most excited about in the next year?
um well, my solo career has been picking up a lot since the last 2 years. I think this year being the most successful. I just had 4 gigs in one day, um, which was crazy. And also financially, it's getting better and better. So I think what I'm excited about is the point of, like, getting even more rid of my blockages as an artist, and like fully bloom, you know, even more. I think I'm at this stage, I'm living from beatboxing related things already since 5 years. You know, there's the stage of like, I made it. And since like this year, it's like also, I can live good from that, you know. So I'm kind of like are excited about creating more music and releasing more music, beatbox performing wise, and actually get into the more of like releasing side of things. And yeah, I think that's what I'm really excited about. I have a new album coming out with my band, The Rezones. I have a lot of new songs which are unreleased, but I'm hoping to produce very soon.
That's right. I remember seeing you busking at Mao Park with some new material, and some were super catchy, man. I'm really looking forward to hearing those.
Cheers, man.
What would you say your blockages are right now, and how are you overcoming them?
So I'm reading The Artist's Way
Great
right
book,
now. You know that book?
of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. So are you writing 3 pages every morning?
Yeah. There's days I love it. There's days I'm like, "Ah, yeah," where the letters become very big. So like, no, I think just being aware of like negative blurs I have, belief systems that are in place. Because the better I got, the bigger my expectations got. The better my ear got, the more I hear how flat I am, and like just things like that are like kind of, let's say your mind is already there but you can't keep up, like just kind of like leveling that a bit more, like in terms of this is where I can hear myself but it's not where I am. You know what I mean? Like kind of getting into that process of seeing what your blockages are, getting rid of them, like exchanging them to positive ones, and then actually being kind of a flow state and mm, not like being vulnerable, but not being like able to be heard so much. I think because if you open yourself up as an artist and you write songs, it's really personal. There's a lot of space to feel, I don't know, any emotion like shame or disappointment.
Well, Marvelin, thank you so much for your time and being so vulnerable with us today. You're honestly one of my favorite acts we have in Berlin, and it's
Thank you,
just
man.
incredible seeing you blow people's minds every single time. I wish I could see you perform for the first time again, just so my jaw could drop. I still recall when you did that Freddie trying to get into Berghain sketch, which was just amazing. Just
Yeah.
really, really cool. And if you want to see that, you have to see him perform live. We're actually going to have you perform live for us in 2 days in a synagogue converted yoga studio, which is going to be amazing. So
Yeah.
that's going to be amazing with the acoustics there too, unplugged too. So
Yeah.
yeah, keep on smashing it, brother. Keep up the amazing work, solo, rezones, and with um, German Beatbox. It's truly incredible. So wish you all the best. Where can people find you and follow your work online?
Thank you. Yeah, just on any social media platform. Instagram is Marvelin Beatbox, and yeah, just hit a follow, leave a like. No, anything beatbox like orientated is on there.
Fantastic. I also advocate people to send a comment and say hi, or DM, because I feel like people expect that artists get that all the time, but especially in the beginning of your career, like we really don't, and we could do with all the moral support we
Yeah,
can get. So listeners, if you liked what you heard and like Marvin's content, tell him that, because that really helps support artists go through the roller coaster ride of the journey. So, beautiful guys, thanks for listening. Thank you, Marvelin. We've been So Far Stories, and see you guys next time.